So I don't know if you can hear me. Can I ask who's on the line there?
If anyone's there, the Zoom info for online does not work.
Hi, Steve.
How are you?
Hello?
Yeah. What's the problem with it?
You get, when you put it in, it says, uh-oh, you seem to have lost your way. Let us help you find your way.
Okay.
So
I can call in to the meeting, but I can't do it on the computer because that Zoom address gets me, uh-oh, you seem to have lost your way. I've never seen this before.
Yeah, it looks like the link is broken, but the meeting ID, which is a couple lines down, is the correct meeting ID. So if you open up Zoom and just paste that
I can't open up Zoom.
Okay. I had that same issue, but I was able to just manually put in the ID number.
Maybe under join a meeting.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So guys, we'll go ahead and give it another, about another minute or two, and we'll go ahead and start. Thank you guys all for joining. Outer, I'm glad you could make it back.
Yeah, I got back just about an hour ago. So
oh my gosh.
swooped in right on time, but really wanted to make sure I could be here.
I very much appreciate that. So we'll give another minute or so. We don't have a huge agenda, so but lots to talk about. Hey Barry, I saw you were in the meeting with Rachel for the safety committee. Let's see. Yeah, we're going to start pretty shortly here. Just as a side note, I've never been more happy and honored to wear a mask than I was today walking around going to work. You know, it's like another incentive to wear a mask with all this smoke going on around. Okay, we'll go ahead and start. We are recording, and thank you guys so much. This is our monthly homelessness committee meeting, and just so that we're clear, the meeting is going to be, we're going to keep it on the second Tuesday of the month, but due to all the movement within our committee, I just really thought it would be important to stay kind of on the same rhythm. So I hope it didn't inconvenience anybody. I know there was a snafu in terms of getting it on the agenda due to Labor Day. So I'll take the hit for that. But for moving on forward, we'll have a timely announcement for that. So we don't have a quorum, so that's not going to be an issue. And but why don't we just go ahead and jump in? Like I said before, the agenda today isn't super huge if you were able to view it online. So from here on, we could just jump right into public comment. And I figure let's give it about 20 minutes so everybody has time to talk. Try to maybe limit it to maybe 3 minutes at most, and everybody can kind of go around and share. So if you'd like to share, go ahead and raise your hand, and then we'll go ahead and call you on. So, okay, so is it Brian?
Not to be the bearer of bad news, but I just want to say that the meeting can't actually legally begin until you have a quorum.
Okay, we don't, without a quorum, we don't have any plans to make any type of motions or anything like that. So you're saying we can't begin it? Because I just got off one that they did, so.
Which one did you? They shouldn't have been there.
Oh, really? Okay.
You can still informally go through the items on the agenda. There's no official action on any of them, but
I've
you
been told
can
otherwise
talk about
several
it.
times. I mean, if that's new, then fine, but I just want to make that clear.
Okay, I appreciate that, Brian. Would you like to share anything?
Well, I mean, just as an informal thing, I sent you an email the other day. Last homelessness committee meeting, I was voted on to rejoin this committee, and my name is not on the committee list. So I just wanted to know if you had intentionally removed me from the committee, or if it was just an oversight, or just kind of wanted an answer to that.
Okay, so is anything else? Because I'm not sure we're going to dialogue. I thought maybe everyone could just go around and voice whatever, and then I could answer it during my portion. Is that cool? Because I do have an answer for you. And
You want everyone to make a comment, and then you're going to answer all of them at the end?
Well, I mean, it's an informal meeting, so with only a few people, I guess I could probably go ahead and answer that. So to answer your question, I did not intentionally leave you off. I just got the minute a few days ago, which had you listed on there. So that wasn't intentional.
Okay.
So, but I did see your email, and I'm playing catch up. So I'm hoping that we can talk offline, because in terms of the overall committee direction, I just wanted to talk to you about that, and then make the decision if you wanted to stay or go, you know?
Right. Thank you.
Sure. All right. So if you're just joining, we don't have a quorum. This is a meeting we're having, just kind of dialoguing, probably in an unofficial format. But if you feel like you wanted to share something or ask a question of me, because this is my first meeting with you guys, I know there was there was things going on before I arrived. And so I just wanted to kind of clear the air with that. And I wanted to say two things is number one, I know that, talking to Abra and a few other people, that this committee has done like profound things within Studio City, and those will not go unacknowledged. And I will say that I feel that as the new chair, we need to really promote what we've been doing, because I just get the sense people don't know how much, work has been done on this committee. And the second thing is that if you have any questions with me, I've been talking to a lot of people the last 3 weeks. So please feel free to ask questions. I'm not shy. I'm not, there's nothing, I'm transparent. So if there's anything you want to know of me, homelessness is something I'm very passionate about. I think it is it may be odd that to be brought in this fashion, but I was asked by several people, and I said yes, and I'm just going with it. So I'm hitting the ground running. But I live in Atwater Village, by the way. So, but I'm in my husband and I, we spend quite a great deal of time in Studio City, and but like we don't live in Studio City, but we're there quite a bit, and we know quite a few people. And my business was in Studio City up until right before I became the job I have now with the county. I had a business in Studio City. So anyway, that being said, are there anything anyone would like to say or comments? Yes, please.
Yeah, just thank you for stepping up and chairing this committee. We really appreciate it. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to bring up a matter of concern. I'm sure everyone's talked about this, the underpass at Coldwater, the encampment there. I've communicated my concern to my city councilman and they claim there's a COVID emergency, and they're not really doing much about it. Anyway, my thought was that it actually violates the Americans with Disabilities Act, because there are obstructions on the sidewalk that prevent someone with mobility issues from continuing down the sidewalk there. And I know that those kinds of obstructions, they violate the Safe Sidewalks Act. And I just wanted to know what your take on that is, given that there are tools that we can use to deal with these situations in light of violations of the Americans with Disability Act. And
Okay, so that's a multi-layered question. I know I was sitting on the safety committee meeting just before this one, and I'm going to answer it several ways. But in terms of jurisdictional issues, the street is LAPD, and the actual physical freeway overpass is a state entity. That's the Highway Patrol. So it can be a complex issue from that standpoint. But with regard to what you're talking about in terms of being able to pass on the street, I do, like, legally, like our unhoused people should not be blocking the walkway there for disability, for even just normal people. However, it's a hard thing, because with regard to I don't work with LAPD, but from what I gather with what they do there is they can come along and give a warning, advisement, maybe do a citation, which is an infraction. But then after they leave, ultimately the person may move some of their items back, because it gets tight under there. So, I mean, I don't have an answer for you. I just feel it's such a complex issue. I will say that when you guys get to know me, I'm a housing first advocate with low barrier. So what I'd like to do is, with Project Room Key, if you're homeless, if you are unhoused within a certain distance of that facility, it has a different there's different parameters. But basically, to be homeless under the overpasses, I'm about housing first. But the problem with that, even before that, is having the connections with the people in the encampments, and that's where a lot of you guys we can really work with each other in terms of knowing who those individuals are. I'm also a big proponent of databases, and make relationships with the people inside the encampments is another way. So I'm kind of answering your question all over the place, and I apologize about that. I don't have a specific answer, but I hope that gives you something about kind of the direction that I personally would like to take that.
right, I understand. Someone's staying there in a tent and there's a COVID emergency and all that, but they also have other bulky items, and the bulky items, if they block, I believe it's 4 feet on the sidewalk, those can be taken away so that people can actually walk there. I mean, I can't walk there with my kids along that sidewalk to get to Whole Foods Market. I used to be able to do that. I can't do that anymore because it's unsafe. We have to actually step out onto the street, and that leaves us open to vehicular hazards. So I understand the concern about the homeless people staying there, but there's other people's concerns as well. But people with mobility issues can't get through the sidewalk, and people have to step around because there's so much refuse and whatnot there. So I just think we need to take a look at enforcing the Jesse Unruh Civil Rights Act and also the Americans with Disabilities Act violations, which even in light of the COVID and people being allowed to stay in tents, they can't block the sidewalk. So I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we get
just curious what how committee members should be participating. Is this a time for us to chime in public comment, or because I don't know if this is an official meeting or what you want to do as far as structuring the responses?
Yeah, well, I mean, in terms of just with this number of people on and not having a quorum, I mean, I guess there's some issues about whether this is actually an official meeting. So with that being said, I think there's a few items we could discuss, but I don't want to also, if people are uncomfortable with moving forward, like I don't want to be also like doing that as well. So what I intended was to just maybe spend the next 15, 20 minutes dialoguing and then maybe going over what we would talk about for our upcoming meeting. There's a few things I want to talk about for that, as well as Project Roomkey.
Maybe Richard Niederberg or Brian Carroll, you could advise on this. I'm just looking at people who are on the council who could help us understand how to proceed within the bylaws.
I'm
Well,
open.
you can't have any motions today,
Okay.
but you can talk because it was advertised. So anybody could come here and talk. You open to the stakeholders. You won't have any motions.
That's and just to be clear, the way, and maybe I'm wrong, but the way that I understand it is that if it's printed on the agenda and there's no quorum, the items that are on the agenda cannot be discussed. That's my understanding of it. So, I mean, and because the whole thing is like, the reason why that's put in place for transparency and sunshine law sake is if you have all this discussion now, you could just have another meeting later when you do have quorum and just hold a vote without any discussion or public comment or anything. So that's the reason why. And it's, you know, it's part of the Brown Act and stuff. Again, I could be wrong about that, but I mean, whether or not law or not, I mean, that's a concern, I think, that we should at least keep in mind.
Are we?
Well, you can't call the meeting to order, but you can, everybody that's on the screen can talk to one another.
Okay. Well, I mean, with that being, and thanks, Barbara. But with that being said, I think we'll just proceed with dialogue, and we'll go for like another 17 minutes. That way, people aren't off put by the not being able to talk about the agenda, or we don't cause any friction with that. So, anyway, that being said, would anybody else like to make a public comment?
It just seems to me that it's more about walking along a sidewalk than it is actually, you know, having the homeless be in a better place or a worse place or any place at all. It seems basically that the conversation I'm getting is that as long as they're not on the street, they can do what they want. My idea was they can easily get one of the parking lots that have the solar panels over, like the new high school on Vineland, and basically just hand out spaces like that get them off the street and give them power. I'm not saying that's how to do it. I'm just saying it seems like this conversation is mostly about sidewalks. It's not really about getting people off the street into a more productive for them lifestyle.
I think that's a really good point, Richard, because it is also noteworthy that I learned last week when we were doing some outreach that an area that folks were using, a parking lot where folks were living in their cars, was swept and people were displaced. And I was out there on one of those really, really hot days and the parking lot was nearly empty. And it just, you know, I think many of us, when we see folks struggling to survive on the street, we're thinking to ourselves, wow, I cannot imagine what it would be like to be living outside when it's 114 degrees. And here I am, I have the privilege of being able to walk down the street from one errand to the next. And if I need to sort of make my way around someone's home, you know, I have the great privilege of having that small inconvenience in my life. But I think where it leads me next to is the same point that you're making, Richard, that what are the options for folks? Folks are not placing bulky items in the street in order to make it hard for us to get around. Folks are doing that because they have no choices. And so, Steve, I just want to echo your housing first approach. I think as a committee member, I fully support that too. And I think the work we can do ahead is supporting those local efforts here, especially the Sportsman's Lodge, Project Room Key.
Let's see, Terry.
Okay.
Yeah, hi.
I had a question about bulky items on the sidewalks as well, and I was specifically referring to the underpass when you go onto the freeway if you're going north on Laurel Canyon Boulevard, before you come to Riverside, the first time to get, you have the opportunity to get on the 101 and then the 134. There haven't been any people without residence living under that underpass for more than a week, and hopefully they're at Sportsman's Yacht Lodge or somewhere else that's you know, a decent place to be. But the belongings that are there, there's pieces of furniture and things like that. And I understand if people have medication or personal items that we don't want to throw those away, but there's a lot of what looks like trash. I took pictures of it today to send to the councilman's office. So I think that the people's items that are of value to them should definitely be taken and put somewhere, because right now they're not living there and they're just open to anybody destroying them or taking them. And then the items that are garbage, this is the high fire season, and all the grass around those on-ramps and off-ramps is all dry. And it just seems to me that that's a fire danger, a health danger, and I don't see it serves anybody, that stuff being left there. So just previous to this at the public safety meeting, Captain Ramirez was saying that because the Bridge Home has been declared a particular zone, that they get pickups of garbage every week because they're not allowing people to live right outside the Bridge Home if they have somewhere to go. So I'm wondering, what can we do to facilitate the garbage being left, and furniture and big items? They are big items, and you cannot pass the sidewalk on the east side at all because there's too much junk. And Abra, with all respect, stepping onto a busy road, I don't think should be asked of any citizen. That's why we have sidewalks. So I disagree with you there, but my point is, see, what can we do to get things moved, and by all means saving the items that are of you know, that are personal items. But there's a lot of garbage there, and there's no people living there right now.
Yeah. Just me personally, it's a tough one because it's on one side, it's somebody's property. Like, this is an unhoused individual, and you know, we value our homes and our couches and our and they do the same. So it is a hard thing to say, okay, this is trash. But then my thing would be, when you if something's abandoned, I don't know what the city ordinance for LAPD, but like, if it's abandoned for maybe, I believe it's 7 days, please don't quote me, then it can be transferred to, you know, a waste site with 311. I do know with 311, I've talked to some people in Studio City about the use of that, and they say that it's not as effective as is advertised. And I haven't had any really good, I've had a good experience with it, but that's another issue. So I think, like, potentially, like, if it's there for maybe a week or longer, I think it would be okay to call to have it removed. Have you tried to use the removal site before, or?
Not recently. I didn't find it particularly effective.
Right.
And so I was wondering if maybe we could do something through one of our committees, or if several committees came together and said, you know, this is an issue for us, and what can we do to accelerate a few more pickups? Because, you know, there's so many obstacles to having garbage and trash removed. And I don't mean to call anybody's personal possessions garbage, I really don't. But you can see that there are things that maybe at some time someone was using, and now it's all broken and it's halfway in the street. So I don't think that that's anybody's treasured possession anymore. I think it's probably, you know, become trash. So perhaps there's a way that we could coordinate our different committees, and maybe that might have more oomph to it. But the underpass I'm speaking about, it was populated by at least 10 individuals. I see them all the time because I go under that underpass virtually daily. And now there's nobody there, and it's been more than a week. And I'll send you, Barry, or Steve rather, I will send you pictures I took today. You know, but I think it's something that we could possibly actually do something about. So that's my comment.
You
seems
might
like-
want to contact Jessica Fugate in Krikorian's office, because I think they've been doing a round of cleanup and moving people, and she could probably tell you what's going on, because I've noticed a lot of the people were gone under Moore Park in the 101 as well. So she's usually up on the schedule of what's going on and could probably tell you why that trash is still under Laurel Canyon. But I'm not sure where everybody's gone, because I'm not convinced housing has been found for all the people that were under the overpasses. They probably just moved elsewhere, and that's kind of our dirty little secret. That's what happens every time. They just get moved from one place to the other.
Yeah, Jessica was the happy recipient of all my pictures earlier today. I was wondering if, because of the extreme heat, if people had taken advantage of what rooms were available, because there's nobody there now. So, but thank you, Barry, for your suggestion.
One of the things also I thought about is that if anybody remembers, if you go up Laurel to Oxnard, turn right to get on the freeway going north, there's a lovely island of parking. It's not adjacent to any private property, nor is it private property. You could make that a place where people could park their motorhomes or houses, their cars, whatever it is, right there, because it's not going to bother anybody. Yeah, there's construction across the street, but that's got nothing to do with this. And I'm sure there's little places like that all over the place, and says if people are self-contained or almost self-contained, the worst you'd have to do is just put in the toilets and the water stations, and you got something going, which is better than nothing at all. It's costing $500,000 or $700,000 per unit is great long term, but for right now, that's the kind of thing that can happen right now. Just we should do something, or just something to mitigate the worst of the problem.
Can I say something?
Yes, go ahead.
I'm with the CPAB, the Community Police Advisory Board. If bulky items and items are left unattended, they're abandoned. They can be cleaned up, and it's not a personal property issue. Terry's right. The best thing to do is keep after Jessica, and also let our senior lead officer know that's abandoned property there, and they'll get together with the CARES and get it cleaned up. They do that weekly, I think. So it's just getting the information, and Terry's done that. So it would be great if other people would. We're not taking personal items if the people are not with them.
I think also too, if you guys probably already know this, but on, let's see, what date is it? The September 16th, which is this coming Wednesday, Paul Krikorian's going to be at our neighborhood council meeting. So I would really hope that all of you would be on that call to voice your concerns with the effectiveness of the waste removal, because I've lived in several parts of LA, and it's just in Studio City. I just have to agree, it's maybe because of the inundation and COVID and everything else, it just doesn't seem to be as a rapid movement as I've seen actually in my area, it's a little quicker. So I think being on that call with Krikorian having you guys there would be very important. Let's see, Brian.
I think Rachel had her hand up first.
Okay. Rachel, let's see.
Not Jose Hernandez. Sorry about that. I can't rename myself for some reason. I just wanted to, I think we're talking about people who are living on the street versus people who are living in their cars. And I kind of addressed this in my committee meeting, not this past month, but the month prior. Safe Park LA, I've been talking with them. I didn't realize that they don't have an outreach program. that is able to go into an area and try and recruit people to move their cars to an area where there will be restrooms and other facilities that might benefit someone who is experiencing homelessness. And I was wondering if the homelessness committee would be interested in doing some sort of outreach that would literally just be promoting that type of program, because I'm I walk the neighborhoods a lot, and I'm noticing more and more that there are a lot of people living out of their cars, and I don't think they necessarily know about Safe Parking LA. So I was wondering if we could maybe combine and get an outreach team to kind of peruse the neighborhood and get the word out.
It's something like I think would be it'd be good to discuss. I will say that like I went to Barbara's what do you call it, pantry a week ago, and I got there at 6:30, and I noticed on the way there I saw a lot of parked cars, homeless, unhoused people parked in their car on kind of near the intersection of Moore Park and Colfax for like those 2 blocks within there. So that would be, if it's something we as a committee, as people we move forward with, I think that might be a great area, because I don't know of any other areas where there are cars parked like that, like I'd seen like that. But I think I'm very open to that.
I can tell you too, like locations of where I'm noticing more people living out of their cars. Happy to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see. Yeah, go ahead, Brian.
So yeah, I just want to bring up a concern that I actually got from some of our unhoused neighbors here in Studio City, in the surrounding area, more North Hollywood as well. And I just wanted to just bring up if this is the kind of stuff that like we could work on and maybe be an endpoint for these kind of complaints. And this may sound a little bit conspiratorial, and that's why I don't like to sign up for it, but I think we should keep an eye on it. So one of the things that I've been hearing is that the trash cans that are provided in some of these encampments, they overflow. And from a lot of people who I've heard, and in several places I've heard this too, they're suspecting that LA Sanitation is deliberately not clearing out the trash cans so that they overflow, so that they go into the street. And so it justifies care teams and police to come in and just sweep the whole area. And I understand we want to say like, well, these are bulky items and these are personal items. The care teams and the police, they don't differentiate. They go in, they take everything, and then they're done. They give a short window for people to kind of gather their stuff and leave temporarily, but then they sweep the whole thing. And they're not really looking for whether something's medicine or documents or bulky items, or they just take the whole thing. So, but the conspiracy theory part of that does bother me. Is that something that we can like maybe look into? I can maybe gather some more information and then have you kind of just like research. You're muted, Steve.
Yeah, absolutely, Brian. I'm not actually, I'm not really clear on when you say conspiracy, are you saying it's intentional that people are creating waste sites for removal, right? Is that what
Yeah, not always, but I've heard several times now that they are claiming that because there's usually garbage cans provided by LA Sanitation. They're saying that the garbage cans are deliberately not being emptied in a routine manner to justify the need for a much bigger sweep, which then ends up displacing them. So, that's a concerning theory. I just don't have a way to immediately kind of confirm that one way or the other. But when I heard it, I was taken aback by it. And then I heard it the second time, and then I heard it the third time from other people. And so, if there's any truth to that, I definitely think we should have oversight on that.
Yeah, if I could just offer a suggestion, I think, like maybe this, like instead of like the someone I heard, if we could like maybe get some specifics about a couple of those cases, that way we can approach it directly.
Well, that's what I'm asking, is if you would be like an input thing where I can gather actual information, get their names. They are some unhoused neighbors who I talked to, and then I can just clear them if they want to have their names released to you in the committee and the board itself. I'm not asking yet for the point of action. I'm more asking if this is something that we could investigate a little bit further, and that I can get you that information if the answer is yes.
Yeah, actually, I mean, obviously we can't, vote on anything, but we can definitely table it and talk offline about like how we can approach it.
Yeah, I'm not talking about emotion or anything. I'm just saying, like, if this is happening, then it's a yes or no.
Yeah.
And if it's a yes or no, that means someone's behind it. And if someone's behind it, then we should probably then prepare a response or, write a letter or whatever we're going to do. That's all I'm saying.
And I've also heard LA Sanitation, I've actually heard officials say this, that their guys don't want to go there to pick up the trash because of COVID, and they actually have to get out of their vehicles to get the trash, unlike when they come through our neighborhoods and the arm just swoops up the trash and they never have to get out of their vehicle. So they are definitely using COVID as an excuse for not going to these areas.
And I was starting to hear this even, like, the first time I heard this was actually pre-COVID,
Well, then I think they were using needles as an excuse. They were going to get poked by a needle. There's always some excuse. Yeah.
Right. To justify the bigger sweep, and which displaces people. I mean, like, that's terrible. To have that kind of pathway.
Thank you. Goat Puppet. You have to unmute yourself. So, Goat Puppet, you have to unmute there. You can go ahead and talk when you're ready.
Yes, that's it.
Okay, let's moving on. Danny. Danny, are you on the call here? Can you hear me? Is anybody able to contact Danny Bakewell? Maybe
you cannot move.
Okay.
I just move on, especially if it's informal.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Anybody else? A couple more minutes. Just any type of public comment. Abra, anything you want to say?
I think that the idea of finding out if people know about safe parking and how people's belongings are being treated are great tasks for an outreach team. And if anybody listening to this call is really inspired to do some outreach right away, you can get in touch with NoHo Home Alliance. They're putting together a street outreach team. It's very early stages, but if that is something that you feel excited about getting involved in, it's happening. And our first outing was really illuminating. We made some really good connections.
Okay, and also, let's see. Yes. Anybody else? Oh, there's let's see. So I'm going to give Danny one more chance. Can you hear me, Danny? You're off mute there. If you can talk. Okay. So moving forward, our next.
Hey, Steve. Microphone. Yes. This is Peter Cole. I wanted to make a comment.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Make a comment, yes. First of all, welcome to the club. There's been lots of talk about, I hear you say you're housing first advocate, and you mentioned Sportsman's. Have you been in on any of the conversations with the Sportsman's Lodge and the chasm that appears to be between what the Sportsman's claims is going on over there versus what LAPD has found and the Studio City bid? There seems to be quite an uptick in crime in the area. I live directly behind the Sportsman's Lodge. Also, another area of concern is there doesn't seem to be any kind of straight talk as to what the exit plan is for the people that are at Sportsman's right now. And a big fear of mine and others is that the door will open and they will just end up being on the streets in Studio City. And I say that partially because, well, first of all, they've been hemming and hawing over there at Sportsman's about what they're going to do. Also, if you go on the website for Project Room Key, what they claim are the rules are not what's happening over at Sportsman's. What they're doing is there are no curfews, even though they say the residents are allowed to leave between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. If they wander back well after that, there's no issue. The doors, whenever they want to wander back, they can. There's also no criminal background checks on anybody staying there. There's also, alcohol or drugs are allowed there. So that means that I would assume that some dealers are going to be in the neighborhood. You made a comment that Ralph's, I believe it was you made a comment that Ralph's has noticed an uptick. So anyway, I'm very concerned that this issue, I don't want to see this issue get swept under the table. And I would like to hear from you where you want to see this committee going. Is this more of a continuation of what has been, where this committee has been going, or you will address issues from the other side of the community that has been demonized, that we don't care about the homeless just because we're concerned about public safety? Thank you.
And thank you for that. And I do need to respond to you. I saw a couple of the things you sent yesterday. I think it was yesterday and the day before. And yes, I have. One of the things that I've busied myself with is the Sportsman's Lodge, just because out of curiosity. I actually got a tour. I've talked to security guards. I've gone there in certain times of the day, both night and morning. It's more activity in the morning. In the daylight, there's more activity, surprisingly, not at night. And this morning, I was on a call with the developer, Ben, and Stephen Yu, and there's another woman, Allison. They're from Lhasa, and they're in charge of like facilitating that through LA Family Housing with Chris. I think it's her name. I think it's Freed, if I get it correctly. But long story short, I think this maybe give you guys a little bit of insight in terms of exit strategy, because it was a question that I had from both angles. On one level, I get that the community feels, there's a strain on people who live around there. It's undeniable. It's different in that area. That intersection, maybe Ralph's is different. The behind the Sportsman's Lodge. But on the flip side, as the homeless committee chair, I'm also concerned. Okay, so say COVID ends in 3 weeks, hypothetically. Are we just gonna are they just gonna empty the people out? So I see both sides of it. So I thought I got a fairly adequate answer today. And what Stephen told me is that they do a phasing out of the program at other sites, which they've done before. And that phase takes 6 weeks. And incrementally, they take a percentage each week and get them housing. So in all of their versions that they've done, nobody has been left unhoused, which is amazing. So so hypothetically, say COVID ends at December. I mean, the all clear is December, and that's the deadline to close it down. They would start 6 weeks before, and maybe 25% each week or so are moved into housing. So I hope that answers that question, because that was something.
So Steve, with that, I'm very skeptical, because all these things sound really good, but what's on the website is not what they are doing. So logic would dictate that they haven't done the other things. So why would they necessarily treat these people right when they leave? You get where I'm going. So I would hope that you could be on top of this and report back to us where these people are going and make sure that they don't end up back on the street or under cold water in the neighborhoods.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't know the sites that they've downsized before, but that's their I actually believe them that I don't think that they would leave like 50 people and say, hey, okay, the doors are closing, head on out to Ralph's across the street, you guys are on your own. I don't think that happens. But I will definitely research more. Maybe I'll even visit a site that had been downsized, the 6-week downsize and closed, and talk to some of those other facilities and coordinators to see, benchmark, like what could they have done better. But I do trust that they will not leave people without housing at the last day. And they actually, like I said, they start 6 weeks, but they have a target date, and then they start 6 weeks out. So
6 weeks out, can you start looking into this and report back to us?
Absolutely.
Whether or not they actually, how many people are there, how many are left, how many got housing that week? That would be helpful to allay our fears.
So one thing, Peter, I had mixed views, both good and bad, about Project Room Key. So that's why I went there, COVID or not, I went. And maybe not the best idea, because the facility is actually, the people there are compromised immune system. Most of them are 45 and older, not a lot of young people. And homelessness is, as we know, 45, 47, that's kind of like the life expectancy. So a lot of these people are that age and higher. So my question this morning was, like, for you guys, for the committee, like, could we go and just, get a tour, maybe talk to Chris on site? And they were kind of working it out. Maybe we can do that. And then it kind of came up that, like, would we really want to do that? Would we really want to go compromise them, or vice versa? Because it's a compromised population of homeless. So any offline, you guys can talk about that. Like, I'm probably going to go back, but I don't know if we'd want to go as a group and maybe talk to the coordinators and stuff like that. So that's another discussion.
So Steve, they don't test for COVID. They
do not. No. If someone shows symptoms, they're escorted to a Project Room Key COVID. They're tested, and if they test positive, they're sent to a COVID positive Project Room Key facility. But what Sportsman's Lodge is not, I had rumors that they had a COVID floor, which is not true. So, and I believe so far to date, they've had 2 people test positive. So there you are.
I have another question about all the materials I've been dumping on your desk about mental health.
Yes.
I don't know if you've had time to follow that up.
I have not. Let's talk offline. I know there was quite a bit of things you sent about the mentally. So were you talking mentally ill, unhoused people specifically?
Well, I'm talking about, you can go online on Nextdoor, and then the fights start, and people go, well, we need to build, facilities, but you can't force somebody to get help if they don't want it. So it's my understanding laws need to be changed. I spoke for quite some time with somebody from Senator Morlock's, State Senator Morlock's office on this subject, and it's about amending Lanterman Petrus, changing the definition of gravely disabled.
Yeah.
And I tried to raise this question with Krikorian and Krikorian's office, and I just get blown off, because Krikorian did come to a neighborhood council. I've sent you these video clips where he says, and there's not, quote, and there's not a damn thing we can do about it. It's about all the schizophrenic. He goes, we know all the schizophrenics on the street in Studio City. I'm sure you can name them all by name. We know when we see them all. And he then started to go down a route of that the changes to LPS need to be made. What I'm trying to do is trying to get him to step up to the plate and use his newsletters to educate the public on the mental health laws that need to be changed and who in the state needs to be contacted and pushed to get these done. And I'm just blown off by Krikorian's office. Senator Morlock's office had called me back and we spent 45 minutes on the phone talking about this. So I seriously doubt that this councilman wants to go there because it's not a pretty subject. So, and as far as asking a question of the councilman at the next meeting, that's not possible from what I understand. What he does every time he goes to these meetings, the questions have to be submitted in advance. This is exactly what happened at the town hall on homelessness that he put on at Valley College. All the questions had to be submitted in advance. So these are just dog and pony shows. And my involvement here is just to see how forceful you're going to be. I don't want to just see that you cater to the group that's been there, that has plenty of other outlets for the advocacy that they want to do, and not to steal the neighborhood council homeless committee for the same thing where they have other outlets. I have no other outlets. I have no place to express my concern for the homeless. I have no place to express the homeless and security issues beyond this committee and the public safety committee. So I'd like your help and a commitment from you that that's what you're going to do.
Yeah, and I just want to say, kind of with regard to that, I have a business background, and I really see a couple things actually, but what I'd like to do as our committee and people the stakeholders, like we should, I feel that we should have some type of a measurement of how effective we are as a committee, and whatever those parameters are, we can come up to the metrics, we can come up together, because otherwise it just becomes about emotion and feeling and things like that. And so I think if we just could have, I was going to wait to talk about this, but I really feel that like we could have a reduction per year and I'm not talking about sweeping people out, getting them out, but I'm just talking about in Studio City having an incremental reduction per year to where, potentially like in 5 or 10 years, our homelessness impact is very light or low or non-existent. But to do that, we have to set some type of goals, like contacts, and I'd like to partner with more agents. I know NoHo Alliance they're amazing, but I also know, I was talking to Lhasa today, there's like many other agencies that we can get deep coordination with as well. So I don't think it's fair to just use one agency. So I think that's my vision. And let's make it low to maybe non-existent 5 to 10 years. And
I also think it's important here just to make sure that we're not erasing the history of the work that this committee has done. As you said in the beginning, you wanted to amplify that. The committee's efforts directly resulted in a reduction of homelessness in Studio City. There were 35 people that entered Project Room Key as a direct result of our advocacy.
Absolutely.
So I want to make sure, again,
we need to
broadcast that.
Billboards, and I'm not talking literally, but people need to know that, because otherwise it's just like, oh, those guys are just doing whatever. And also
a lot of people do know it, and I actually did hear that at the neighborhood council too. I agree with you, can't be said enough.
I want more people to know.
I'd like to ask 2 questions.
Yeah, and I just want to finish one more thing in terms of I think asking about vision wise, because if you look at our mission statement, it is definitely homeless outreach. I think the education component, maybe this is just my perception, maybe a little bit lacking in the community. Maybe we need to educate people more politically, working with elected officials, steering money to Studio City. I don't think it's a money issue. I think it's a resource. It's an allocation issue. That's just me. And then the last issue, we do need to address people that are having issues. I talked to a woman, and I won't say her name, but she said that they were in their home, and a homeless man walked up to their backyard, and her 6-year-old daughter was traumatized. And I absolutely relate to that, because something like that happened to me when I was 5. And it's just different. So we've got to address all angles, because your property is your property, but if you know, the guy may not have been lost, or maybe, I don't know, but, you know, we have to address those issues too. I don't have the best answer, but I don't want to ignore the fact that people are experiencing those like home issues, you know. I'm sorry, go ahead with your question.
Okay, so Abra, I think it's great that you got 35 people off the streets, but I think we got 50 to 100 more on the streets in the last month. It seems like everywhere we turn, there's more and more. So back to Sportsman's Lodge, what's to say that they are taking in people with drug problems? What's to say that those drug people, those taking drugs now, are going to get in housing because they have to follow rules to get in housing? What's to say they are? So do we have a number of, you know, a count of the number of residents in the room key that have drug problem? And so we can remediate that before it happens?
One of the problems is, of course, that the developer wants to get those rooms cleared so they can refurbish all of them and rent out the place. Supposedly there's some tourists coming by, I don't know, but they'd like to get the people there so they can possibly get the people out of there. They've made their money and they want to refurbish those rooms. Right now it is very nice. You have the homeless there, and if there's noise next door, who cares? But that won't last forever. They're going to want to refurbish over there, so those people will go.
Sue, I think we have time for one more person to share their public comment. Let's see, 1 second here, guys. Terry, yes. Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you. Abra, when you mentioned about doing outreach, and Richard mentioned about, oh, there's a parking lot that could possibly be used. At a CPAC meeting, I was surprised to find out that a lot of police officers don't have a list of available parking places. And when I asked about that, and there's a good reason for it, some of those places are secure, and there's secure places for like battered women and such. So there's not a big list out there. So what you were talking about, Steve, and I think would be super valuable is, yeah, if you can find that list of all the different people, and then you, Abra, and yourself figure out who does what, who's on first, and then I think that would be a really good outreach project that could actually be really valuable. Because my first thought was, well, yeah, why isn't there a master list somewhere that we would all know about? Like you say, the public would be educated about, and we'd all know where to go. But there's reasons sometimes why this information isn't readily available. And also for a lot of those parking lots, I found out you have to qualify. You can't go there that night. The policeman can't find somebody whose car's broken down and say, okay, I can get you towed over here. They have to apply. There's a process and all that kind of stuff. But Abra, again, about outreach, there's an encampment on the south side of the River Wash, behind Vaughn's off of Laurel Canyon Boulevard, and it's now blocking the right of way to drive down there. And when that bike path opened, because I live on one of the streets, I live on Laurel Grove, it's on the footbridge path. When that bike path opened, I used it all the time. I ride my bicycle everywhere, and I no longer feel safe going down there. And now I couldn't go down if I wanted to because it's actually blocked. So that's that sort of thing, that when that sort of stuff is that egregious, that you're not going to get a buy-in from the community to say, oh, let's all pitch in and help, because the people who are there, if it's not yourself or someone who has some experience or has a drive to do that, to go speak to people and say, look, dude, if you're right in the middle of this thing, you're freaking people out, you could be back 20 feet that way and they wouldn't have to confront you coming down the pathway. But that's what there seems to be. And I'm sorry, I realize that some people are challenged in a way that don't have the wherewithal right now. But a lot of times there seems to be a very nasty attitude. And so it's kind of hard to feel like you could do any outreach. Sometimes I felt like going up and talking to somebody and saying, hey, is there anything I can do? But I'll tell you the truth, I'm afraid. I'm a senior lady on my own, and I'm afraid.
Yeah, I think your point is really meaningful about going with somebody who has experience, and that helped me feel comfortable this last weekend. And that's why this outreach team was formed formally through NoHo Home Alliance. So it isn't people who might be going out for the first time on their own. So I can't speak for any other outreach groups, just the one that just formed at NoHo Home Alliance, but they all of the teams are led by people with experience doing outreach.
Well, hopefully that particular encampment might get some love. And then I totally understand Peter's frustration about Sportsman's Lodge, because when you hear any of the people who are the face of it speaking about it, they go, this is for senior people who have health problems. So everybody's thinking somebody over 65 who has a heart condition. But when you read the contract, and I read it all, I got it from the councilman's office, and then I read the whole contract. So on one page, it says, this is for 65 and older with health problems. And on 2 pages later, it says, or you could be 18 with asthma. On one page, it says, if you break any of these rules, you will be ejected from Project Roomkey. And 3 pages later, it says that the staff is not allowed to eject people. So it's very contradictory, and it's there in black and white, and it's very typical of boilerplate contracts are made by the city, and they just put in a whole laundry list of stuff, and they end up with something that's not enforceable and not effective. So I would advise both of you to take, maybe you have done it, I don't want to assume you haven't, but reading that contract really just underscores why the community doesn't buy in, because you're told one thing and then it's something else too. So I understand Peter's frustration, because that's been our experience. So that's it. Thank you.
So just a couple of announcements. Thank you guys so much for all that you offered to this meeting. I just want to make a couple of announcements. So next Wednesday, or this coming Wednesday, like I said, please be there to voice all that you said today with our elected official. And then we're going to resume the same rhythm of the meeting, being the second Tuesday of the month. So let's see, that would be our next homelessness committee meeting will be October 13th at 7:30 p.m. And so, and again, apologies about getting it out last minute. I just wanted to maintain the same rhythm and just keep going. If you guys get to know me, I'm a feet on the ground type of person. So I appreciate you guys. Feels like that's what you guys are too. And then we can work together and see what we can come up with. And yeah, so, well, that being said, one other thing too, guys, if you wanted to reach me, the sjohnson@studiocityneighborhoodcouncil.org is the best way to send me an email. And I'm really good about giving out my phone number. So, but I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to give my phone number right now, but if you can just go to the website and Studio City website, and then you can find me on there and just shoot me an email. Okay. All right. Well, thank you guys so much, and I'll see you all soon.